Okay, it is 5:06 by Apple Watch and iPhone, so we will go ahead and start the meeting. This is the Utility Service Board Committee meeting of Monday, May 22nd. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting of May 8th, 2023. Are there any questions about the minutes? No. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item items are the approval of the claims. So the first are the standard invoices at $1,227,147.52. Are there any questions about the standard claims? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next are the utility bills in the amount of $239,524.89. Are there any questions on the utility bills? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item is wire transfers in the amount of $421,603.62. Are there any questions on the wire transfers? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the customer refunds in the amount of $11,396.91. Are there any questions on the refunds?
I have a
Yes,
couple
Megan.
comments. Thank you. Okay, so I see a few of the customers requested a refund for what I assume is overpayment or credit on the balance. So thank you, and I can't remember if I've asked this before, so thanks for answering it again. So do we just, because looking at a further customer who didn't realize that they had continued to pay on a credit balance, at what point do we notify customers, hey, you've got this balance? And when do we, like, let's say for my Macy's card, I went and bought some things, I paid off my card, and then I returned my things. Then I had a balance on my account, and then they sent me a check. So these folks had to request that, and I just wondered where do we get that threshold, or do they get notified you having a balance on your account, and how does that happen? Thank you.
I'm not aware of a formal process. We search through our accounts and say the balance is over X amount of dollars. We should contact them. If we do come across it in our daily searching for other things, we do reach out to them. But as of now, I'm not aware of a formal regular process that we use to go through and try to proactively identify large balances.
Okay. Because this one customer with the refund of $4,500, that's a lot of money to have been on. Now I know there are some accounts that maybe that's their monthly spending.
Which one was that?
Second from the bottom.
So what happened with that one is it's kind of, I would say it's an issue with our bill, but it's a confusing aspect of our bill, is that if you do have a credit balance, it says amount due, and then it'll have a number in parentheses. So what happened in this case is the customer kept thinking they owed the amount in parentheses instead of using that money. So it just kept building until.
But still, that's a significant amount of money to refund if it's any payment repair. But I just wondered, like, what's that policy on notifying folks? And if that's something that is confusing for people, is there a way to fix that? But it's not our billing system, like I know.
Well, people call in, we do try to explain it to them. We do have a credit balance. There's parentheses around it. We actually don't use that money.
Can it be printed off in red, the bills? I don't know. Well, probably red would be your, okay, well, I think it's in color though. I think there's coloring.
There's red in there.
So, but I just didn't know because, that's a big vacation. So somewhere. So thank you.
Still makes little sense to me if you kept paying and it was a credit and would add exponentially, then the last bill would have been something like $2,000. And wouldn't you worry about getting a water bill for $2,000? I don't.
Is there like a, maybe once a year or every 6 months or something, we look at, I mean, like, not trying to make extra work for you, but, I just think as a customer or ratepayer, if we know we're just still collecting this money every month in overage, and we're not, getting resolution with that account, if there's some formula we can put in the Excel sheet that makes it pop up, or I don't know, that's not my area for
We can do it.
expertise.
So I think-
Thank you.
I think what you're saying is, do we have something to evaluate? Is there a threshold where if a customer has, let's say, $1,000 credit, do some bells and whistles go off to say, Mr. Kelson, that we make a phone call proactively and say, did you know that this is really, you have $1,000 credit? So we don't have that in place.
We'll look into it and figure out how
Okay.
to set a policy.
Thank you.
All right. Okay,
That's my.
thank you. Are there any other questions about the customer refunds? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda with Vic.
Good evening, Vic Kelson, Utilities Director. Happy to bring tonight's consent agenda, which totals $4,280. First item is to Heflin Industries, $1,780 for boiler maintenance at the Monroe Water Treatment Plant. The second is $2,500 to FIG Appraisal. It's an amendment to the agreement for the appraisal of the admin building and property based on a USB request. If there are any, would anyone like to consider any of these separately, individually? Hearing none, if there's no opposition, the consent agenda will be approved as recommended by staff. And hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Vic. Next up, we've got Matt Havey with the request for the approval of Resolution 2023-10 to designate surplus property for auction.
This is similar to what we did, I think, 2 board meetings ago, where we're starting to clean things up around the office, and we're finding, like I said, old office equipment that's not being used. So this is just another round of lamps, and, like I said, file folders, things like that, that people are no longer using in the building anymore, that we'd like to put up for auction and see if we can get some money.
Are there any questions of Mr. Havey? Yes.
I just wondered if the items that went up for auction a few weeks ago, have they actually been auctioned and were they purchased? Did we make any money?
I have not gotten an update, I don't think they've been, I don't think
Okay.
they're done yet.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? All right. If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have Holly McLaughlin with the request for the approval of agreement for services with Jim, and I don't know if his name is Ginley or Ginley Consulting LLC.
Hi, Holly McLaughlin, Communications Manager for the Utilities, and it's Jim Ginley. I'm pleased to present this agreement with Mr. Ginley to do strategic planning for the utility. A couple of us have taken a class with Mr. Ginley. He helped to write the effective utility management framework that you guys might be familiar with from our budget memos from the past couple of years. That helps utilities, water utilities specifically, balance out the urgent needs of making drinking water and treating wastewater with the equally important but maybe less urgent needs, like making sure our stakeholders understand what we're doing here, making sure that we are focusing on customer satisfaction and sustainability. So Mr. Ginley will help the utility develop a strategic plan within that utility's framework. I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have.
Are there any questions of Holly? Yep, Megan?
I've got all the things tonight. More of a comment, but I know that it was an opportunity for a utility service board member to be involved in the training process. So please keep us informed and included.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
would love to do that. We so after we did what I call the boot camp with Mr. Ginley, we actually brought a assessment tool to a board meeting. That was before you joined the board, but if y'all remember the big chart that we did that had the 10 attributes, and we ranked them by most important as a group. That is one of the exercises that we will probably do again with you guys if you're up for it.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great, motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Holly. Next, we have Dan Hudson with the request for approval of change order number 1 with Building Associates Incorporated for the Monroe Water Treatment Plant Filter Rehabilitation Project. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dan Hudson. For the record, I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the City of Bloomington Utilities. And this is a change order for Building Associates for the Monroe Water Treatment Plant for the rehab of the filters. The project change order is primarily for 2 air handlers on the top of the building with associated electrical equipment and controls, and also they need to shorten the air piping for one of the filters. The change order is for $324,700 for a new not to exceed of $2,429,600. I'm happy to entertain questions on this. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I know that the original bid here is about, well, $324,000 less. Was there another vendor that put a bid in that would have been under this amount, and that it did include all of the ductwork and everything?
That occurred to us when this happened, but no, there was only one bidder on this
Okay.
job, so that eliminated that possibility of
Okay.
coming
And
in.
what
Yeah.
kind of checks and balances can we put in place for next time so that this doesn't happen again?
I think the best thing is to do not have a deduct. That was the confusion in part of the bid. We had a design and then we had a deduct, and we changed the design during the bid process, and I think that confused the vendor at that time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thanks, Dan. Our next item on the agenda is the request to approve of the approval of consulting services with GRW Incorporated for design work related to the Clearwater reduction within Southeast Sewer Basin, and that's Kevin White.
That is correct. Kevin White, CBU, Capital Projects Coordinator. This project is really in response to the Clearwater Reduction Program that's been funded by developers in the sewer basin to offset their wastewater flows through reducing I&I. It's going to be consulting them to help with their design. They will be consulting to help with the design work and the bid documents and construction oversight as well. It'll primarily be in the College Mall neighborhoods. And consist of roughly 12,000 feet of 8-inch sewer that needs to be relined. We'll be hopefully rehabbing about 33 manholes and 50 or so sewer laterals. I'm happy to answer any questions related to that.
Are there any questions here? I just have one question. In terms of the cured in place pipe, I know we've had some problems with some, I think we've had some problems in the past with some liners. Is this something that we're using a better product? Or am I looking at the wrong one here?
I'm not familiar with the problems with the liners that you mentioned. We've recently completed a project very similar in scope in the North Fritz Terrace neighborhood,
Okay,
and we did not have any problems with liners on that particular job. And I would imagine we'll be using a very similar product and similar companies
Yeah.
that
it's
did
not,
that
yeah,
work.
it wasn't something that we had recently installed. I think it was something that, it was an older product that was used at one time, something that was installed previously and that we saw was not working properly. But this is what we
I can't
are
speak-
using.
I can't speak to that. There
Okay.
have been plenty of advances in technology
Yeah.
in that particular field, and this is the newest,
Great.
best way that we've came up with to do this project.
Great.
So.
All right. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have Dan back up for the request for the approval of, I'm going to butcher the name. I'll let you say what it is. For-
Thiedemann. Thiedemann. yes.
Thiedemann.
This project is, has already been approved by the board under the resolution 2023-08. They were considered the most, I forgot the term, effective or
Responsible.
responsive and responsible, thank you, as the bidder for the Dillman wastewater treatment plant, bar screen and electrical feeder improvements. And this is for the signature of the contract for $3,493,000.
Are there any questions?
Happy to entertain questions on this.
All right. Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great. Motion passes. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is old business. So old business from the board, which I believe we did have some old business from the board.
Staff, I know that. But
Okay.
From, do we have old business in the
Well,
board?
no, that's in subcommittee reports.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out where the whole street sweeper thing, because that
Oh,
was
that-
new business from us. So now that's now technically old business from us.
It's old business and it's the only one we have.
Okay, so let's go with that. The
Like-
street sweeper,
I'd like to invite
presentation.
Kat Zager to join us at the podium.
Hello, Catherine Zager, Assistant Director, Environmental. I am up here to answer some of the questions that were asked during new business last time. And so I'm just going to go through some of the questions that are in the minutes, and then we can discuss. So the first question that we had was, will there need to be budget or personnel adjustments? The answer to that is yes, but we had anticipated that happening. The second is, what should be communicated to the public this fall regarding service? From the perspective of CBU, there's not going to be a change. We're not going to be sweeping the streets this year, so there's not going to be a change in street sweeping service this year. The official timeline for the transition. So this year is a transition year. It's a planning year. Our goal for this year is to, so we're putting out an RFQ to create a street sweeping route plan. And then based on that route plan, we'll be making those adjustments into next year. Hopefully we will have the staff and equipment by the beginning of the second quarter of 2024. The timeline, that is the timeline for the transition. I do want to add as a note for the timeline that a lot of this happened during turnover of our MS4 program, and this is being headed by our MS4 program. So as I was leaving the MS4 program into this current position, I'm spinning up into this position. The current MS4 coordinator is spinning up into her position. And so we are getting to this RFQ and hoping to have this plan done by this year. All right. Will there be ongoing compensation from Civil City for the street sweeping services now being rendered by utilities? No, there will not be. However, the streets department will be doing a lot of the street sweeping that they're already doing for like milling projects, for emergencies. They will still have a sweeper to do some of the street sweeping for streets. Ours will be focused on keeping the MS4 clean. What street sweeping equipment will CBU be inheriting and what condition is it in? I don't have a certain answer for this question. However, there are 2 street sweepers currently owned by Streets that are both 2017 years. One is smaller, one is larger. We're not sure which one we will end up having. They did have one in the shop at the time, so that kind of put a wrench in that question. However, knowing this, we can kind of go into the second question about the costs associated with the equipment. The smaller street sweeper will, and this is from the 2021 sweeper maintenance costs from Street. The total maintenance cost for the smaller one was $5,140.95, and the sweeper maintenance cost for the larger one was $18,624. I will take any further questions or clarifications or.
Can I offer the process thing from the budget process last year, since Catherine wasn't in the budget hearing process last year? The plan has been for us only to take on additional sweeping that would be dedicated towards keeping things out of the MS4. So basically protecting streams as opposed to protecting infrastructure and dealing with the milling activities and emergencies and all those kinds of things. That those are going to stay with Street. We did not plan to actually do any sweeping this year because we needed to plan for what our schedules were going to be, what our schedules and what the routes were going to be. So that was the work that the CAT was working on last year. And we're going to be hiring a consultant to help us get those things together. We do have requests in for staff for these positions starting in 2024, which was our plan last year. So the idea is we would do new hires in first quarter 2024 and hopefully be working in the second quarter 2024.
Questions? Yeah.
We've got operators for the current equipment. Is there thought about them taking other jobs at Public Works or moving to CBU staff for this
It's my
project?
recollection that Adam had other jobs for them in Public Works, but I can double check that with him. Do you recall?
I think in our memo that there's currently no dedicated staff to street sweeping, but they all of their operators are sweeper trained, so they're not specific to the sweepers.
Jen?
Yeah, I just wondered, has there been communication with the street department to get a sense of complaints that street sweeping has had, so we kind of know what we're getting into?
We recently had a meeting with the street department. However, we didn't discuss the complaints that they are responding to.
Yeah, I think it might be a good idea to ask if there are typical kinds of complaints that people had, so we can know what to expect. That's all.
Seth?
So there's street department has 2 vehicles. Do I understand that correctly?
So they technically have 3. They have a third that is older, but that one I don't believe is on the table.
So we're inheriting 1, right?
Yes.
Are there plans to purchase another because these are 7 years old at the point and
Yes, so actually some of what we've been doing in this quarter has been demoing street sweepers, because if we're going to make that kind of purchase, we really want one that's going to be effective at particulate reduction.
Thank you.
Molly? Jen? I'm I'm still kind of grappling with how we ended up here, but I know we approved it as a board, but, so we're taking on additional equipment which will probably be at our expense, correct? Or,
The ones we take on from street will be the used ones from street. We'll be responsible for maintaining them.
okay,
As we expand the program to do more dedicated sweeping, then we would presumably, we
And
will need to buy another sweeper.
and I just want to make sure when we talk about year, we're talking about calendar year, correct? So we're like,
Yes.
not on fiscal year,
That's right, yeah.
the proposal will be that we're going to start taking this on in 2024, correct? Okay. And we're getting no financial support from the Public Works or the city to start maintaining this. It'll be up to us through ratepayers.
To pay for street sweeping related to keeping the MS4s clean, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to verify.
The street department is continuing to do the work that's related to street maintenance and emergencies and so forth. But we're going to be focused on keeping things out of the stormwater system.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
I wanted to add that a big part of this plan is that we want a plan that is aimed at particulate reduction. We want a plan that is aimed at keeping our creeks and streams clean.
Great. Yes, Kirk.
I guess a follow-up on the financial side of it. So then this will come out of the stormwater utility budget. Have we made adjustments for that in '24?
Yes, the adjustments were made when we wrote the budget last year. There's a new line item in there. And something just for clarity, one of the most expensive things we have to do is clean out storm inlets. And storm inlets do get cluttered up with stuff that flowed in off the street. So the objective here is to keep our storm inlets and our stormwater infrastructure clean, so it's really not correct to say that this is simply a new cost. This is a new cost, yes, but it's the purpose of it is to offset costs that we do for things that we have to do later. So it's far easier. The hypothesis here is that over time it will be cheaper to keep things out of the inlets than to clean them back out of the inlets.
And that makes sense. I mean, if you look at the inlets after a rain event, a lot of them are piled full of leaves, sand, beer cans, you name it. And if those get into our underground storm drain system, you got to suck them out, and that's more expensive than sweeping it up probably. It's just that, this is a whole new area of personnel and equipment expense.
Well, it is a little nerve-wracking because it's something we haven't done before.
Yeah. So in that, and this may sound like a silly question, but does one have to have a particular license or training to operate a street sweeper? And is that an expense that'll be at an expense to us? And how many people are we going to train?
I think the number of people is not solid at this point. We'll, start with one and, depending on what the plan calls for, progress there and grow. As far as training, I believe you do need a CDL-B to,
Okay.
to drive it.
So we'll just have to make sure that our staff has that, whoever is assigned to it, it's an additional licensure.
Yep. And a lot of our heavy equipment operators either have or are getting CDLs.
I think in line with your comment about saving costs on cleaning out inlets, does this mean that the street sweeper will kind of go out after every significant rain event to look for it, or will people call in? Or, I mean, it seems silly to say, well, the street sweeper is going to go out every April 1st, June 3rd, and October 7th. So will they be geared to particular storm events?
I don't believe so. I think this is more of preventative. So I don't think it's, we're getting a storm, let's go send out the sweepers. I think will likely, I don't have the plan in front of me, but I think it will likely be a frequency-based approach.
So not all streets are created equal when it comes to debris. So the purpose of doing the study is to determine routes that will most effectively control debris. This is one of those things, like a lot of things, as we've seen at MS4, we're going to have to walk before we run. And we're going to grow into this over time as we identify how things are working and what new things come up. There will be a schedule. There will be routes. We'll operate the routes in the schedule. My guess is it won't be long before we're putting out notices to people to please don't park on this side of the street on Thursday morning because we're going to sweep it. Beyond that, there may be notices that say, move your car or we're going to give you a ticket. I mean, these things, it all depends on how the community responds as we go forward. Different communities do it different ways.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where my guess is that Kat and her staff are going to have to work diligently and watch the results and the data to see how to make the program fit the city of Bloomington and our utility as most effectively as possible.
Kat, just one more suggestion. You're probably already thinking of this, but the university has a plan and equipment that sweeps the campus streets, and there may be some overlap that we do some city, I don't know, but be sure and have your consultant plugged into the university's facilities department to make sure that we're coordinated in how we plan all that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Jim?
Good suggestion, Kurt, because I was going to say the same thing, except for with the Public Works Department. Have you all talked to them and their schedule, their frequencies, which are some of the streets that aren't created as equal, so you should know all that. So I guess I'm wondering, what else is a consultant going to tell you other than the schedule? But I'll listen to that later. One of the board members asked you about budgeting and personnel changes, and you said yes. And that's true, but I was just wondering if you could expound on that at any kind of way. I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah, so we'll definitely need someone to operate the sweeper. The way that the decisions lined up last year, so the decision to pursue this was after the personnel requests. So we are going to have to do the personnel requests for next year. And that will obviously impact the budget. And like I said, we're demoing street sweepers. We'll need to budget it's in the stormwater. It was in the stormwater rate case, I believe. And yeah, so those are some of the changes, I guess.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the concerns with the stormwater rate case.
Yeah.
You see, and this is just going and going and going. And it's something we're planning for, but it wasn't part of it, but it will be now,
Yes.
which means that our ratepayers will end up paying for all this. I mean, you and Vic, you can confer if she keeps looking at you for the answer. I mean, we already know that. I'm just telling you what to anticipate that's coming.
The rate case last year.
Well,
yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And that's still, those are some fiscal impacts that we'll talk about later for those that maybe are on the lesser end of rev or income. Yeah, well, I'll just listen to more, because it seems that if we're going to raise the rate, your budget by that, then I would expect to see Public Works go down as equal amount. I know you'll say it don't work that way, Jim. I understand that. I understand that. But we're talking same dollars, and you think, well, ratepayers is different from tax. Well, we're all the same thing. And so I'll be listening to that later. No comments needed. We got budget stuff in August, so you'll hear more. But I just want you to know where I'm thinking. Okay. Thank you.
Molly?
I would
be keeping track of like what will be saved by doing the posts, what's already been in the sewers versus the prevention?
Yeah.
So we will be able to know if we are actually getting a savings or kind of what the net is.
Sorry, are you asking if it's monetarily what we're getting or like particulate load reduction?
I think both would be important.
Yeah.
I was thinking financially, like, are you actually saving, how much time, effort by not having to clean the sewers out as often versus someone just driving down a street, which is obviously very different. So that would be something good to look at.
Yeah.
As after the implementation.
How much time they spend on MS4 street department, like last year?
So how much
Time, like from a percentage of the amount of work that they do, are they spending 15% of their man hours with objectives towards this, or
I don't think it's really designed that way.
so
well, it can be.
T&D has their storm crew, and I'm not exactly sure what percentage of their time is cleaning out storm drains, but I know that most of the requests that I end up having to put into City Works are to clean out parts of our storm system.
Sorry, I was confused. I was thinking about Public Works. Their program.
Oh,
is-
It was.
Sorry.
It was. Yeah.
Their program for street sweeping really isn't designed that way. It's
Yeah.
that they
Okay. You
have a
answered
regular schedule, but it's dedicated more to
the streets.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I think
Thank you.
one way to measure is to see how many tons of debris we keep out of the storm drains,
Mhm.
and then extrapolate from that to see how much that extends the life of the drains before we have to vacuum them out. That may be one way to look at it. So, and we can look at it in targeted neighborhoods, perhaps.
Mhm.
That's something to be worked out during the study. But you imagine they had a group of streets that you knew how much load there was collected in the inlets, and then you do your sweeping program and you see how effectively you're keeping stuff out. I think that's really the kind of study. So, and I'm really not responding to you, Jim, but this does respond a little bit to you. The point of this whole program is that more effort will be spent keeping things from going in the inlets than has been spent in the past. So it's the hours or miles are not created equal either. So it's it's going to be difficult to quantify, but I think we can come up with measures.
Yeah, I don't believe the programs will end up being one-to-one.
Jim.
Thank you. And not to have a back and forth, but one of the things you'll need is a baseline, and that's what you guys are looking at.
That's
so,
right.
So it's hard to tell me anything until you get a baseline.
That's right.
Okay, so let's kind of just get that straight.
Okay.
The Civil City is also not going to vacuum leaves anymore. So has there been any discussion on that? Let's say some people don't want to, and I've got constituents say, I got too many. We're a tree city. I got 1,000 trees. I'm not bagging all these up. Okay, I'm not mowing them and mulching them. And some people will. But has that been part of the discussion, in particular with the RFQ, I guess, and these sorts of things? Or is that part of the baseline and we'll figure it out a year from now after
Yeah.
people are already paying for it?
Yeah, so this year, I don't think there's too much we're going to do about the fact that we're not vacuuming leaves from CBU's perspective. And I do know that when we have been demoing street sweepers, something to keep in the back of our minds is the fact that that might be something we encounter a lot of is leaves. So,
Might.
might, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Let's be optimistic.
For the Dr. Drain program to be promoted.
Mm-hmm.
So for the gutters around your house, for the last, 15 years or 20 years, they've got whatever the leaf guard thing is that will keep leaves out of your home gutter. can you put a leaf guard thing over the inlets so that they don't get clogged up? Seems like a simple thing to do. Doesn't hurt the water flow.
I have no idea, actually.
It might hurt the water flow. If it's more stuff for the leaves to get caught on.
Mhm.
And if it's not just coming from above, they're coming
It's coming
from all sides. So it's just another structure for the leaves to get caught on.
All right, good point.
That's a good thought.
Kirk.
One last comment, I guess. This is an interesting project because it spans two mission statements, I think, that we, as a city government, have a responsibility to take care of. One is the MS4 stream, the stormwater stream, and protecting it and keeping it as in good a shape as possible. But the other part of street sweeping is the safety part. And I think that's probably been Public Works' priority. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I haven't seen their mission statement on this. But it could be maintain safe, navigable streets for pedestrians, bicyclists, and scooters. We're going to have to blend those now because we're going to have responsibility for this. And we can't lean just on the stormwater stream. There's the other piece to this too, because Public Works isn't going to run around behind us with another sweeper to take care of the rocks and sand that build up at intersections and things like that, that are a hazard that people slip and fall on their bicycles and things like that. So that was kind of a point in raising all this a couple of months ago. Is this going to take some work and a transition plan and to figure out how we balance those things? And even though we're paying for it out of stormwater, there's this other piece that's a city government responsibility, and how we balance those things and make sure they're both covered. So that's what I'm hoping that we can see here, because this is a pretty visible basic service, safety-wise, that the city's responsible for.
And our objective, I'm speaking for Adam here, but certainly both departments are interested in making the program better. The whole idea here is to make things better.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Kat and Vic, for your answers to those questions. So that was the only old business item. Is there new business from the board? New business from staff?
No.
We do have a subcommittee report, and that is going to be Mr. White.
Yes, so the property subcommittee, property and planning subcommittee met and approved for the full board's consideration an amended resolution 2023-07. And I think most everybody is up to speed on the amended language. Is there anybody that needs to review that? But the report is from the committee that we approved the recommended, we approved this resolution, recommended it to the board as amended, and that was a unanimous vote.
Are there any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
You probably should read what the amendments were, because that way it'll be in the minutes of this report.
Okay.
So, as amended to say the following things.
Yeah, that's a good
just
idea.
To make sure it's in the minutes.
Since the amendments were made after the public posting.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, can you go back and check the notes on this for us?
Yeah, so first page, bottom whereas, now reads, whereas the Utility Service Board, after hearing multiple visitations concerning the current environmental conditions of the CPA for CBU operational expansion, the consolidation of CBU operations, our architectural master plan for new administration and service center, as well as discussions regarding a fair and reasonable return on the value of the current CBU administrative and service center
by the city of Bloomington through its interdepartmental agreement now wishes to formally resolve to support exploration of this public works project. And whereas the Utility Service Board finds the exploration of the public works project to be necessary, proper, and beneficial for the city of Bloomington and the city of Bloomington utilities, customer base, and finds that exploration of the project should be supported.
Those were the amendments.
Thanks, Vic. So is there a motion to approve the amended resolution?
I move approval.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, the resolution passes. Just before I go to the next item, I just want to say thank you to the board for giving this consideration and for everybody that has come out to the planning and the planning meetings, because I know it's not everyone's responsibility to be on this committee. I also want to recognize Vic. You've taken a lot of questions on this and have handled it very well. And I feel you've really taken this to heart in terms of not only what Jeff has wanted, and speaking on behalf, since Jeff is not here, but all of us. And I appreciate that. And Frank too. You know, I know that this has also probably added some extra steps in your process. So thank you for giving this the time that it deserves. And we look forward to continuing to work with the staff to hopefully see this project through. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the board is staff reports.
Okay, I think I have a record long list of staff reports, but they're all good. So the first one is new hires. Emily Tate joined us as administrative assistant in transmission distribution. Jimena Martinez joined us as a communications specialist, and Foster Tiller is a meter specialist, temporary part-time meter specialist in meter service. The second one is Dennis Dooley, who's an operator at Monroe. He's been here just under 2 years, has passed the IDEM WT5 certification, and now has enough hours to be a licensed operator at Monroe. So that's 8 out of 10 that have official licenses, and the other 2 are working on it. We had a team of 4 employees from our wastewater plants wastewater, I guess a wastewater division if we had one, went to the wastewater operator challenge. That was Hector Ortiz Sanchez, who's our assistant director for operations, Kaylee Bollinger, who's one of our newest operators at the Dillman plant, Tyler Story, who's also an operator at the Dillman plant, and Jason Wenning, who's our pretreatment specialist. And they came in 4th overall and 3rd in pretreatment. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for doing that again, and just want to congratulate our team. We also received an award from the state's MS4 Association. This is the 2023 Indiana MS4 Award of Excellence for Outstanding Indiana MS4 Special Project. This is all related to our residential stormwater grants program that the board has graciously helped us to develop over the last several years. So I'm very thankful for that, and it's a nice award. It was a good thing to read, and there were a lot of really good comments made at the time we got the award. Last week, we had our public meeting to discuss the resource recovery presentation. It went quite well. We had around 20 people there, some of them were members of the public who had apparently heard about it and were interested in it. As we said the last time we spoke about it here, we will be working to do the remaining analysis of how we might partner to do a project and how all of that would work out, with an objective of deciding whether to try to move on with the next step before the end of the year, preferably early in the 4th quarter. The reason for this is that if we're going to do this project, we need to be underway before the 1st of January 2025. Otherwise, we would be ineligible for around $10 million of federal funding. So we really want to have the chance to make a good decision about whether to proceed with something like that. I know board members have been hearing about issues with strikes on infrastructure. We've been getting a number of directional drilling contractors have been hitting sewer laterals from some of our customers. They actually struck one of our sewer mains last Friday, and we've had to do some significant repairs. We are working with the engineering department downtown to look at ways to more effectively handle these situations and to work more effectively with the directional drilling contractors. Everybody's trying to get a lot of work done in a hurry, and sometimes our infrastructure is suffering from it. We've got some ideas about how to more effectively identify these strikes. The biggest worry I have is that if your home sewer lateral is struck and broken, you might not know it for a year or two. And then it might be very difficult to get the contractor out there to fix it. So we would like to find ways to discover that more quickly, and we're discussing a number of different options at this point. So we are working on it, and if you have questions or hear anything about these kinds of situations, please reach out to one of us. We've been discussing it quite a lot lately. And then the last thing is please mark the date, June 1st, which is a Thursday at 5:30 p.m. We're having our first family day for CBU employees and the families at Switchyard Park. And we'd certainly love to have board members. And if you want to bring family, please do. And there'll be food. It's a pitch-in, but it'll be quite a nice event, we hope. So please come, bring your family, bring your dog, bring your bike, or whatever. So we'll all be out there a week from Thursday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Are there any questions of Vic or? Okay. Are there any petitions or communications from anyone else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Great. Thank you, everyone.